Welcome to episode 20 of Are You Mad at Me podcast.
Episode 20.
Yeah.
Woo.
You know, when I was about to turn 20, I was worried about saying it, how I would pronounce it. I remember having a conversation with my Aunt Clara just before I turned 20, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to say 20 or 20. And she was like, you're ridiculous.
No, Aunt Clara was the one that lived. She was like fancy, right? Weren't they the ones that like spoke very eloquently and...
No, they were from the Southern Shore.
Oh, okay.
They were just
Different
wealthy.
aunt.
They were just wealthy. No, same person, but they were wealthy. So I thought how they spoke was probably the best way to go.
Proper.
Yeah. But she thought I was pretty ridiculous. Anyway.
So I'm Josh Morgan.
Rip Clara. I'm Vickie Morgan, and it is we're rolling, man. This is like
20 episodes.
This is 20 episodes.
Once a week.
Yeah. I'm having a good time. Also,
That sounded very Dusty Slay. We're having a good time.
We are having a good time. I am loving Dusty Slay.
Was that a good impression? We're having a good time.
I don't know. I've never seen him say that.
He does this all the time.
I'll go look it up and see how he sounds. But
all right.
So we're into the thick of the episodes of Nateland podcast where Dusty Slay is a co-host, and I am digging it. He is awesome.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
It's a really nice dynamic with all the guys. And I don't know. I mean, I wasn't tired of the dynamics or anything with the three of them, but four of them.
I thought that what the Nateland podcast was missing was a redneck. So they did it. They got Dusty.
Does he call himself that? That seems kind of offensive.
I mean, I think he might.
I think you're flirting with offensive.
he might self-identify as a redneck.
I don't know. Anyway, he's very funny.
Yes, he's funny.
Very, very funny. So I'm enjoying that. Josh said, I said, you want to do a podcast tonight? And he was like, I don't know. I don't have anything to say. And I was like, I don't either, which is, I think, kind of a dangerous combination.
Yeah, let's put some live mics in front of us and record.
Yeah. I think it's good to have a little bit of structure going in so I have an idea where we're headed and all that stuff. But I think it could be dangerous. But we'll see. We'll see. I'll see you on the other end.
We have done some pretty fun stuff past couple days.
It's been a whirlwind.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. Don't you worry about what I'm doing over here. I can handle a mic stand. Or maybe I can't.
You need a hand?
I don't.
All right.
But speaking of that, just fresh off a show from this week, and I'll tell you, I love performing. Yeah. I love performing when I don't have to sell tickets, and when I don't have to do the marketing, and when I don't have to talk to the venue.
When the show is set up and waiting for you when you get there to play, and then you just sit down and play and then leave. And The accolades just come in.
I don't know about that part. But I'll tell you, the day after a show is boring. I said some funny stuff today. Nobody clapped. Nobody. Not even you. I'm very disappointed. Are you mad at me?
I was clapping in here.
I got to tell you, as a performer, I think we all might have a bit of a thing going on. I think we're all a little bit touched in the head. Like there's something, I don't know, maybe everybody likes being clapped and cheered for. I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
I think there's a group of people that really like being up in front and entertaining and all that stuff. And I kind of feel bad because it's kind of hard to be in regular life. And there's a lot of us out there who just crave attention. I don't know if we just didn't get enough or if we're whatever it is, but it's hard to go through a day without people clapping. Just going to say it. Just going to put that out there. It's hard.
Yeah, I think maybe social media might have a little something to do with that too, because like you put your daily goings on the internet, and then you have people liking it, loving it, laughing at it.
Okay.
Giving you a care, react, commenting.
I'll take
all
that.
the time. So it's like
you're right.
You know, when everything you're doing is like, here it is.
Yay.
And then there's people that are like, good job.
I don't know if anything compares to a live performance.
Yeah. No, it's definitely different.
The exchange with the audience, and when they get it, and it's like they feed back energy to you, and then you get bolstered, and then you're just this, I don't know, it's kind of out of control. A few people came up and told me I was brave. So I had to look at some of the tapes and see if I might have overshared or overstepped or just got a little too wild. I don't know.
Should we talk about what show you're talking about? Because maybe people aren't. Maybe this is somebody's first podcast.
Oh,
like,
that's possible.
Why
yeah.
are they talking about a show?
Yeah. So I did a songwriter circle. Thank you. That's a good point. For if you're just joining us, I did a songwriter circle.
Welcome.
Yes, welcome to the Are You Mad at Me podcast. I almost said Nateland. If I say it out loud enough, maybe eventually it'll happen. So I did a songwriter circle with Joel Thomas Hines and Richie Perez. And I'm using my favorite Richie mug today, whatever time you're listening to this. I don't know your life. This is my favorite this is one of my favorite mugs. It's a shot from a show. This is when we first started out. I don't even think we were under the name Mulberry Creek back then.
We played that show with your dad.
With my dad.
So that was, I don't know if that was even the three of us. We were just playing
everything we
I remember for that show, that was a fundraiser for
Spirit
Horse therapy, stable, equine stuff. And I don't know. And so for that show, we had practiced a couple times with your dad, and he kept saying he was having a hard time hearing. Like basically needed monitors, but like he needed to hear what we were doing. That's what monitors are, but not in the way that all musicians need monitors. He just was losing his hearing and having a hard time hearing us. So we ended up getting him a little belt clip in-ear monitor system that he would plug directly into the PA with an XLR cable.
That was awesome.
And it was connected to his belt, and he had one little headphone, and he was sitting down in a chair playing guitar. And I remember we were setting it up to use it at that.
Yeah, I made Mom cry at that.
Did you?
Yeah, my parents. So Mom was at that show, and my aunt and uncle, and I'm trying to remember who else. But Mom said that one you did about anyway, she sang a lyric, or she told me a lyric from it. It was a Jewel song, and that was back when we did covers. We did a lot of covers that night.
Only covers.
I had no originals.
Yeah,
back then.
we only did.
Oh
covers.
yeah,
we still do covers.
That was early.
Okay, we still do covers as part of our shows.
That was really early. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, Richie Perez
was there taking photos.
And he posted, there was a whole bunch of them, and he shot. So this was a moment at the end of the evening where our youngest Peter was quite tired and ready to go, and I was like, okay, buddy, we just
this was a motivational mom speech.
This was a mom face to face. Like I got down. This is when he was still shorter than me. It's been a long time since that was going on, but I got down on his level and said, okay, buddy, we just got to pack up and just hang in there. And I might have bribed him with a bag of chips or something to go sit down and wait for us. And so anyway, Richie snapped this picture, and I feel like you can tell a lot by people by the pictures that they take. A lot of heart. Yeah. Very, very sweet moment. And so we got this printed. We got it up on our wall as well. So, and we've got headshots that Richie has done. He's a brilliant, really brilliant. So he was in the songwriter circle, and amazing. What a night.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I'm still kind of reeling from it. And it
was a packed out room.
Yeah, a lot of our friends showed up, and so today, like last night was like, I can't believe this. Like even while it was happening, I was kind of out of it, but not like dissociated, but just very aware of, oh man, we're halfway through already. That means it's half over. When it was about 20 minutes left, I just wanted to cry. It was like, this is slipping away, and we don't have any plans. That was kind of the scary thing. Like I'm figuring out about myself. I would like to have, like when I go on vacation, towards the end of the vacation, it's a really good idea for me to start planning the next thing, but I don't have anything. I mean, we've got stuff, but nothing that I'm looking forward to like that. And feel a little lost today, honestly. And
it's funny because we had like a few days or a week or something of like really nice weather. Like all the snow was gone. It was getting warm, and then for the past 2 days, it's been snowing.
Yeah.
There's like 3 inches of snow out in the yard.
So it's hard to even get up and walk.
April 4th. Yeah, it's like, I shoveled today because we had a grocery delivery.
Good old Instacart. So it's been kind of a not able to go out and get some fresh air and stuff. It's been kind of a hard day, but it's post show. It's just a letdown after a big thing like that, and I don't know. I heard something on the Nateland podcast. They said it was Aaron Weber said it was evolutionary. That then they have it. They were talking about it a few episodes ago. But if you're like us, you're still catching up. So it's not like the most current episode. And for all I know, they could have went off the rails after 200. I don't know. But back where we are, well, we don't know. But back where we are, they were talking about after a show, and Nate said the next day is hard, and he said like even the minute you walk off stage for him can be hard. He said because you get back there and like thousands of people have been cheering for you, and you walk back and like you're coming back to cold pizza, and you're instantly not anybody anymore. And so it was nice to have that kind of like there's bigger people than me who feel let down after a show, and not to say, like it was so good, like life destroying good. And I said that to somebody that I met at the Alan Doyle concert a few weeks back. She said, someone told her, Vickie sang with Alan Doyle one time. And she was like, what was that like? And I was like, it destroyed my life. And she went, what? And I said, she was like, oh, because nothing. And I said, no, nothing can ever compare to that. I was wrong. When you say that, the universe says, oh, really? Last night was the best night ever. So let's get the parameters, like Mary and Josh, having our babies, getting married, blah, blah, blah. Okay? Well, that's the top. Like, let's give you guys a top 5 slots.
All right.
Last night was amazing. It was good. What was it like from your perspective? Because Josh took a whole bunch of video and pictures.
It was a great show. It was really, really good. Richie was great. He did a bunch of old Potato Bug music from the 90s, his old band. And Joel did a whole bunch of his originals and a couple covers, which was really fun. But he did a bunch of like really dark and, Joel Hines-esque stuff.
Awesome.
Excuse me. And you did 8 or 9 songs?
Mm-hmm.
Like it was a lot. And you did a brand new one that you just wrote last week, and
made my cousin cry.
You made your cousin cry. Always a good sign.
The good kind. The good kind.
And you were like, you suck. Get out of here. And she's like, no. And cried. No.
Yeah, no,
it was just
like
from
that.
one of the
From
the
really
new
nice.
song. Yeah.
Really
And
nice.
like between the songs, like the stories that everybody had, but like you were like the audience was like eating out of your hand. They were loving it. You killed it, to use.
It was a
comedy
really
terms.
good trio of people, really good chemistry, and you'd never know how terrified I was. I watched the videos, and I don't think I gave away too much of the terror and that I was feeling, but it was pretty good. I was gushy, like very gushy. I noticed that. I told everybody in the room how much I love Joel Hines.
Let's call it grateful.
Sure, yeah. And hopefully it wasn't too much, because it was one of those things, like, how you kind of bounce through life and you go, oh, I should have told that person how I felt. And I'm very much of the school that you should just say it. If you're thinking something nice, if you're thinking something crappy, you might want to, write that down on a piece of paper and burn it or something. But I think when you have a nice thought about something, I think it's important to share it. And so I did a lot. And so I was going, the lineup was, I was playing right after Joel. So he would do a song and I'd be all like overcome and filled up with, oh my God, he's so amazing. And then I was introducing my song. And so a lot of it spilled over into, oh my God, you're amazing. And he was like so complimentary back too. And it was just the energy just kept looping through the group, and the audience was great. And it just got better and better and better as the night went on. And so I didn't want it to end. But it did, and I don't know what to do now. I don't know.
There'll be more stuff.
It's kind of funny because I haven't been on a track of, I know I keep talking about on the podcast about cleaning up my cupboards and what's next. I'm just going to be open to whatever's next. And this kind of grips me a little bit. It's kind of hard to go, oh, I'll, whatever comes along, because I'm kind of would love to do more music.
Yeah.
And record some more songs and, work with Joel on anything.
Well, you can still write.
Yeah,
we found that out last night. You got a brand new song.
We can do a ton of stuff here in our basement by ourselves, and I love that. And I'm working on the book. I'm working on a new book, and that's going great. But it really whetted the appetite last night for, oh man, this is really in a songwriter circle when people tell the stories behind the songs, and so it was like, all right, I was so interested in what they were talking about, because Richie Perez has such a beautiful story. Like he has such a good heart. He's such a good person, and. It was the first time ever for him doing a songwriter circle, doing an acoustic set.
Yeah,
he was awesome.
And he had the
great.
same little mini Taylor that you have.
Yeah, it was great.
That was funny.
So all the spouses were there, and everybody was super supportive, and it was just a really nice family kind of. There was one guy that showed up with a little girl and said directly in front, which was I don't know if he saw the poster or if he wandered in thinking he was going to the Wiggles.
I would not see a poster featuring Joel Hines and Vickie Morgan and say, I'm going to take my very small kids.
He didn't care. He didn't, there was no trouble, nothing like that.
No, that's not what I mean. I just mean you kind of know the tone and the themes.
Maybe that's what he wanted.
The language.
Well, maybe he was interested in showing her some culture, because that's I'm very much a proponent of the real culture of Newfoundland, and that was the real culture, I think. I think there's jelly bean houses, and then there's also the Battery Cafe with Vickie and Joel and Richie. Yeah. Richie, of course, was in a bunch of grunge punk bands in the 90s and did a lot of festivals. And so the stuff was it was pretty fun. The vibe was very much similar to each other, and we had a good time. It was really nice.
It was really, really good show.
I'm glad. So there's lots of pictures. We could probably post a couple. I don't know.
I put them on my Facebook and Instagram pages, and we can put them on the podcast pages too, because
Sure.
Yeah, we can share them around, share the love.
So that was really fun. We had so I got an "Are You Mad at Me" story, I think.
Awesome.
Josh did some promos for the podcast and posted them on, I guess on YouTube. They were just shorts. And so we're trying out different times of day, different lengths, different kind of things. They all have captions. They all have the basic format. You know, it ends with a little card that says, you know, where you can find the podcast and all that stuff. And so we got a comment from a total stranger. So I'm also navigating comments from people who know us, very hurtful. Comments from people we don't know, kind of funny.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
tell us about the feedback. So Josh posted them a different kind of time of day this time around, and they exploded.
The last week when we were doing the podcast last week, I was drinking water out of a mug, and I just was like pretending like we had a crew in the back, and I was like, "Can I get some more water?" And it was funny because I was just joking. And then you ended up having water to give me, and it was very silly. So I made a little short out of that, and it was funny. And it was like a minute, and then so I posted it, and it was like really getting fantastic response, like just a ton of views immediately, within like the first couple hours. And then somebody commented, "Canadian moth." That was the commenter, which like a Canadian, really? Come on, give me a break. Wow, another podcast that seems to have no point. Beautiful.
Okay, what if they meant it like this? Wow. Another podcast with no point. Beautiful. Like, what if they don't want points?
What if they were just looking for
meandering, mindless, stuff you don't have to think about, stuff that's just easygoing. Like maybe the tone didn't come across in the comment, and maybe they were like actually happy that there's another podcast out there that's not political, it's not offensive, it's not any of the things that
there's zero
we don't
punctuation.
Cause any stress.
Zero punctuation. So
how would you know
it could be anything really. Wow, another podcast that seems to have no point. Beautiful. There's no period, no commas, nothing. So yeah, you're right. Maybe it could be any kind of tone you want to add to it.
If you put some punctuation in there, it could have been comma.
Put some parentheses in there, some italics.
Beautiful. Thumbs up even. Yeah. Anyway.
So
glad you're listening.
Yeah.
Beautiful moth, Canadian moth, whatever.
Canadian
but
moth,
it could also be an American who has a name like that because they believe the Canadians are drawn to the light of the U.S. There you go. Did you ever think of that?
That's a solid point.
Wouldn't it be
there.
A Canadian butterfly? Like aim higher. Moth, really? Kind of. They don't really live that long. Kind of dumb. They only come out at night. They're kind of a nuisance. They scare Todd Flanders. So you're from The Simpsons.
Todd survived a moth attack.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's always great to get. I just responded and said thanks for listening.
Passive aggressive.
But because this is a person that watched a minute long promo video and decided that was what the whole podcast is about, apparently.
Well, it kind of is. To
be fair, we talked about a lot. That was a heavy episode, by the way.
Well, I'm glad.
There was a lot of serious talk.
I'm shocked
in that
you pulled fun stuff out of that.
And I was wondering about that. Like, should we put jokes, and then people will come and be like, "Oh, this looks like a fun," and then they watch the episode and it's like, "Oh, this is some serious stuff we're talking about."
Well, that's life. I've struggled with that, and I was when Josh was editing that episode, it was like, oh. A couple of times that's happened in the past 19 episodes. We would have talked about something, and I'd go, maybe you should take that part out. And most of the time, Josh will say, "Shut up, woman. I'll tell you what we're putting on the podcast." Stuff like that happens a lot.
Yeah.
And but this time I was like, you know what? It was balanced, and I talked about, there was lots of dark stuff because it was just what was stirred up that week, and I think that's pretty real.
No, it was all good.
Yeah. So this week, what do we got this week? I'm back on the train of, I think self-publishing is one of those things. It's kind of been reinvigorated because we're in the process of publishing a book for somebody right now. And it's that seeing it develop and seeing the look on this person's face when each step of the process is like checking it off the list it's pretty exciting for them and for us to observe that and to be a part of it. So big proponent, and I'm pushing this a lot. Self-publishing is such a nice experience to be able to tell your stories the way you want to, on your own schedule, the way you want it. It is tedious, I will say, because getting into the formatting of this gentleman's book, the formatting's a nightmare. It really is.
It can be, yeah.
Like the writing part of it should be the hardest part for a writer. Like because trying on all those hats and going, okay, I'm also going to do the marketing and the promotion and the, writing the blurb on the back and writing the description on the profile, on the author profile on Amazon. And it's a lot of stuff outside of the creative process of writing your story. And that depends, if your story is about barbecuing outside in Hawaii, it's a different kind of like, but if you're talking about like your personal story or anything that's emotional or whatever, any book is a lot of work to write it.
Yeah.
It's there's some reason that you feel like someone would want to read your book. And I would imagine there's people out there manifesting what you are able to do. But the other side of it is it's a whole different world, putting the thing together. And Josh is doing a graphic design for the cover and doing all the pictures, like, fixing up the pictures and stuff for the inside. And it is difficult. And so I am very mindful that it's easy for if you've done it a bunch of times. It's possible, and it can also be kind of a tedious thing. It's
also, I would say, a lot easier if you don't do as good a job as you're doing. Like somebody could just write, put it up.
A half-assed job.
Yeah.
Okay, Homer Simpson.
I don't mean you should do that. I'm just saying that, if you wanted to, it's your book. You can publish it to look however you want. If you're going to do it for somebody, it's going to be like perfect. But, I'm just saying, you could half-ass it. Not you, but a writer, an author could.
So, yeah. It is, but the formatting, so I've been using Microsoft Word for 25 something years. I don't know, whenever it first came out, I feel like I think I put it on a MS-DOS disk. So I know the program, but there's been a lot of changes to it, and there's just these little tiny nitpicky little tiny things that are like, you do one thing here and 57 pages later that's an exaggeration, but it's also very accurate. So if you make changes, you got to follow through and make sure that it didn't change the pages later on in the book.
You got to know what you're looking for.
Yeah. And then some things, actually, you can't, like if your chapter title starts halfway down the page, you really got to flick through the pages and make sure that chapter title starts in the same place, because one enter, too many or whatever, it'll look off. And that might not be something you care about. But when you're someone like myself or Josh with whatever we have, OCD or whatever,
no,
that would drive me crazy. Like I feel like highlighting when I see a mistake in a book. I almost want to highlight it, and I kind of fall over the page sometimes. But what if I find like a mistake in a Stephen King book?
You mean one that you're reading?
Yeah, it jumps out, and then
you should find mistakes in the stuff you're formatting, because
it takes 3 or 4 pages for me to forget that I saw a mistake in anything that I'm reading. So having that ability to go through and make all the corrections is really nice. But it is hard. It is very difficult. And there might be people out there who go, "Oh, you just don't know how to use Microsoft Word." And okay, great. But I'm at this age, I don't know how much brain space I'm going to put into, It's all Google searchable. It's all stuff that like I will
Google anything.
And at this point you can put into ChatGPT.
Hey, dogs, stop wrestling.
They said no.
They don't agree.
You can go to ChatGPT and type in, every time I type page 9 on page 12, it shows up on page 14. What am I doing wrong? And ChatGPT will like generate a response based on all that. It'll crawl.
Another weird thing
about
Word now is that like it's online. There's like this weird online component where it's like you're writing there's a browser-based version of it, and then like if you want to share something with somebody, you got to share it with them. And if I go to sign in with our account and they sent it to the other email address, like it gets really confusing, because used to you would just give somebody a file and they would open it up in their Word.
And you still can do that. You can save it as a file and attach it to an email and send it over. So that was something we learned with this brand new most recent version of Microsoft Word. But that part of it is, I don't mean to sugarcoat it and go, it's so easy. It's not, but it's not inaccessible. It is possible. Like, we figured out how to do it. And so, that means we're happy to do it for other people.
Right.
Because we have done it. And I don't panic when the page numbers are off or when the table of contents doesn't generate properly. Like, I don't panic because I know this has happened before. It's okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can go right back to the template and it has all the stuff built in for you. You just need to copy and paste. And there's a whole lot of stuff that when you do it on your iPad or in a different document processing software, it can put in a whole bunch of garbage that you don't need. And so you need to transfer everything over paragraph or at least chapter by chapter and not take any of the formatting with it. So it's a tedious thing, but when you're reading a book that you're enjoying, I'm really excited about this new book. I got to say, I'm excited about
it's really good.
It was disappointing when it was over. I was sad that it ended. And so that's what you want.
That'll be a fun thing to announce when it's done.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. And we're, planning a book launch, and it's an international book. The writer's from Ireland and spent most of his life in Newfoundland. So there's an international audience. So it's going to be really fun to work on the marketing for. He's got a lot of followers and fans already in Ireland, and so it's going to be really fun to market. And he's got a lot of people he's impacted here also in the province, and in outpour communities, which is fun. Yeah. So I think we might do a few different little launch events around the province, and I don't know. I'm trying to talk ourselves into a trip to Ireland, but
I think it's kind of funny that
we're going to need somebody to watch our dogs, just so you know, if you're listening.
When we're going to Ireland, yeah.
And interested in, because there's something about they
quarantine animals or something?
Yeah, I think this last I checked, in the UK, they'll quarantine your dog.
I don't know if they still do that, but
I don't know if you can even take them. But we'd have to fly over the ocean. Not crazy.
We'd take a boat.
No, I wouldn't take a boat to Ireland. No.
The Titanic was coming from England
to New York.
Yeah.
Not to Newfoundland.
Well,
I don't know.
It's possible.
Too close for comfort for me. Anyway, you never know. I think I might be able to talk myself into Ireland. That'd be pretty fun. I've always wanted to go there. And my family, so I know my dad's family is from, they were English and Irish, and they've got like a really colorful, checkered past.
Spicy.
But the Hanlons, they're from, my grandfather is little Irish, like a little tiny leprechaun. He was the sweetest. He died when I was 6. And he had there's so much history in his family that I don't know. And the legend is there's this little man that is around town still. I haven't seen him in a couple of years, so maybe he's not around anymore. But there was a gentleman who used to hang around this neighborhood where one of my cousins from my other side of the family lived. And his last name was Hanlon, and we're pretty sure he was one of my grandfather's brothers.
No way.
And as far as we knew, he had one brother. But there was this other gentleman, and it was no, that's not possible, until I talked to some people, some of my relatives, and they said, oh, no, it's very, very possible, because your grandfather had 22 siblings, or 26, I'm not sure. So I think the story is that his mom, she was married with a whole slew of kids, and then I think the husband died, and she remarried, and so my grandfather is part of the second litter of children. And I think she only had a couple with the second husband, but I think there's potentially between 20 and 26
Hanlon siblings
that I don't know. I don't even know what their name was, because I think Hanlon was her married name when she married my grandfather's dad, so I don't know what her name was before that. So potentially there's a whole lot of people in Newfoundland that I'm related to that thankfully I didn't marry anybody.
You know we're
here.
Not related.
We know, well, yeah. Yeah. And Josh's history is very, very colorful as well. And so there's been people researching back into your history and your grandparents.
Yeah.
So I know there was a little family turmoil in your family because someone started digging into your
I think we might have talked about that on one of the early podcast episodes.
Yeah,
one of my cousins was working on an in-depth family tree, some genealogy stuff, and she found there was some evidence that she found that my mom's father had some Native American ancestors or relatives or whatever, and he died a few years ago. So she called my grandmother and was like, "What do you know about this?" And my grandmother was like, "Oh, we're not talking about that." And it was like, "Well, oh, okay. So you do know, and you don't want to talk about it."
But it's kind of funny. What? What year is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So apparently it wasn't a surprise. She already knew about that and was mad that somebody was digging it up. So anyway,
did not want to talk about it.
All the more reason to look into stuff. So I'd be very interested.
But I did have my grandmother's father was he had a rough family. Like they were all in Newfoundland. You call them skeets, but in the South they were just rednecks. But they did back in Prohibition times. They were running moonshine and stuff up in the mountains in North Carolina, and my great grandfather got arrested for running moonshine, and was sentenced to work on a chain gang in Caldwell County, North Carolina, and he was either dating or engaged to my great grandmother at the time, whose family was rich, and they did not approve of him, but they did pay the fine that allowed him to work on the chain gang without having to wear the chains. So like
I'm just hanging out with these guys and just gonna give them a hand.
it was basically
shoveling.
just,
I'm not part of this.
just
See?
like a highway
I
worker.
can move on my hand. Yeah.
Just cleaning up trash,
Just hanging
or
out,
making
just in
big
this
rocks into little rocks.
Orange outfit.
So,
Signs. Nothing to see here.
So yeah, he was one of the first people I ever knew with tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
He had true love tattooed across his knuckles, and he was born in like 1916. He was
Wow.
he was.
Were they like done in prison, or was that?
I don't have any idea.
So you don't know if he went to jail. You just know he was on a chain gang.
Yeah, I don't.
That's
I don't
pretty
he
cool.
wouldn't.
That's
He didn't
exciting.
talk about it. This is something you heard through the family grapevine.
And if you don't talk about it for long enough, eventually it disappears from history.
And this is the same great grandfather that I was at. Like when I was a kid, I was obsessed with dinosaurs.
Yeah.
I was going to be a paleontologist when I grew up. I watched Jurassic Park 10 times in the theater when it came out. It was like my favorite thing, and loved dinosaurs. So anyway, like I was little and I had like a coloring book at his house one time. I was like just visiting when my mom and grandmother were there, and like I was just coloring like dinosaurs, and he came he came by the table where I was coloring. He was like, dinosaurs, that's not real. And I was like, what? Is this a thing that people think that dinosaurs aren't real? Anyway, he was of the old school Southern Baptist, like the earth is 6,000 years old. Dinosaurs were not in the Bible, so they did not exist. Like it was funny. It's funny now, but at the time I was like a devastated little 6-year-old or whatever. Like, you got to be kidding me.
Okay, so 3 things. I really like this format of not having anything to talk about because you talk more, which I love. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I hear a lot of judgment with the story about your great-grandfather. And you said, oh, they were moonshiners and skeets and rednecks and all that stuff. But I got to say, in a time when alcohol was prohibited and there was nowhere to find it, and they found a way to make alcohol.
Entrepreneurs.
Well, I think we would be moonshiners in this day and age. I feel like we would be a part of the group that it was just booze. I mean, it's not like they were, selling fentanyl or heroin. It was booze.
That's true.
Like
yeah.
it was, probably 1,000 proof. But like, I think that would be a thing that we would probably be a part of. We would probably help people drive it around, or wouldn't we? When do you think about it?
Yeah, it's a good point.
So that was the third thing. That was the second thing. And the third thing is, I think it's kind of funny that someone on this podcast, this has never happened, but we're close to it. Someone on this podcast is the type of person who would like to walk by a kid coloring a picture of like a Bible group, like a Bible pamphlet. And whoever, one of us, would be the type of person who would go, that's not real, and walk on and devastate that religious kid. I'm just saying, you did cause a bit of a stir last week on Facebook. Yeah. So Josh is what you call a shit disturber, and he's a lovable one.
Henry is our 14-year-old. He named it rage baiting, and I wasn't. That wasn't my intention. Like,
oh wait,
I don't even remember.
What was your intention? It wasn't the first one either.
I follow some pages on Facebook that are like, atheists, humanists, like, just.
I think the thread is funny. Like
just
the thread
funny,
is, for you, it's funny. He's not trying to hurt anybody's feelings.
Memes. It's usually just funny memes.
Josh speaks in memes and movie quotes. I don't know how people don't know that.
I don't remember what the first post was.
It was with the guy. It was an older post, and it was a guy standing at a tent.
I thought that was the second one.
No, that was the first one. It was what was the first one then?
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, it upset some relatives.
There was a second one because that was the first one. So it was this guy basically at a farmer's market, and he's got this tent set up, and around the edge of the tent it says, "Heaven's not real, hell's not real, just enjoy your life." And I mean,
no, that was the second one. The first one. Okay, so here's the first thing. This is not rage baiting.
Pause. Look how excited he is. Am I wrong? He lives for this, but it's humor based. It's not hurtful.
I came across a post. It was a movie page. Like, it wasn't even like an atheist thing. It was a movie thing. Yeah. And it was like half joking. I don't think it's even real, but they're talking about the Passion of the Christ 2. It's starting to film, and so all the comments were like, hilarious, just all the alternative titles. Like, I mean they're right here. I pulled it up, but it was like I shared this post because I thought like it was hilarious. And I read the comments. These
Why
are really
was it funny?
Because like the Passion of the Christ 2, Christ Harder.
What was the first?
The Roman
movie
Empire
about?
Strikes Back.
What was the first movie about?
The first one was about the Easter story, basically, like Jesus being crucified and dying and coming back after 3 days, and then
what happens in part 2?
Exactly. That was why it was funny.
But wouldn't they do a prequel? Wouldn't that make more sense? Anyway,
The Passion 2, Electric Boogaloo. This is funny stuff. So anyway, I shared that, and somebody in my family was not happy about it. And, well, I don't know. I didn't get the vibe that he wasn't happy. I got the vibe that he was worried for my immortal soul and those of the people that follow me and might read my Facebook posts. So
Josh is very influential.
I thought that was a funny interaction. So then the next day, in my memories on Facebook, this thing came up, and it was the tent. It was some kind of humanist group in South Dakota or something. They had a tent and they had a sign that said, "Heaven's not real, hell's not real. Just relax. Everything's fine." Like, you know,
just enjoy your life.
Just enjoy your life. And then that got another response from the same family member, and
there was a couple of family members, and some of them put like crying reactions on there.
These are people in the South
who barely use Facebook and got on just to cry at your post.
So so I'm gonna to be fair, in my defense, I follow some pages that would really upset people. Like, there's some atheist pages out there, like the Satanic Temple, where people that are, especially Southern Baptists, Southern Baptists, like the people that I grew up with, terrifying. Like in the 80s, that whole what was it called? The Satanic Panic in the 80s, where it was like, so there's groups online, the Satanic Temple, the Church of Satan, where it's like these people don't believe in Satan. These aren't not worshipers of Satan. They're atheists that use their church of Satan to go into a courthouse where they have the 10 Commandments hung up and say, like, okay, well, you also have to hang up the 7 tenets of the Church of Satan. And they'll be like, of course we're not going to hang up the Church of Satan. And then it's like, well, it's not freedom of religion, because so it's really just more of a tongue-in-cheek kind of like, if you're not promoting freedom of religion, you're only promoting Christianity, then that's the problem. So I follow and I think it's really funny because like last week they did this protest. They did the Satanic Temple did something in Kansas at like some kind of state house, and there was like it was a fight, like a physical fight broke out because there were like Christian protesters there and stuff, which is, I mean, hilarious. Obviously that's not funny, but it's funny. And so I thought, so okay, this is what I was getting at. To be fair, the days after I put those posts on Facebook, I was looking through those. I went and found those pages and was like, what can I like? What's a benign thing that I can post that's totally like not harmful? Like,
wait, you were looking on those really severe pages?
Yeah, I was, and I didn't post anything else.
You can see it, right? You guys can see this, right?
I mean, I really felt a little bit like Elaine when she was dating Putty, and he was like, I'm not the one going to hell. I don't know.
So your first reaction, the first level is, I could have posted worse stuff, and then,
I didn't.
Oh, and then the next level is, let me go find something more offensive but funny. So I think it's becoming clearer to people, and certainly to me, why Josh and I get along so well. Because, you know, as much as you're saying, oh, Josh and whatever, Vickie's stirring the pot. We're very similar people.
Nobody's saying that you're not a shit disturber.
Oh, I did call you that though earlier. That's what you're saying. Yeah. So what I'm getting at is,
I wasn't going after anybody or having a fight on Facebook. It was just I was pretty innocent posts, and I was just having fun, and you know.
And that's kind of the core of Josh Morgan. If you don't know him, is he's very fun and very kind and very nice to people, and it's kind of funny. We really should have set up a structure on this podcast, because we're going down a rabbit hole. We're going to share.
Whatever, man.
When we first met, Josh was, of course, Southern Baptist. Like, you grew up Southern Baptist, but you were not in that. You were not a practicing Baptist when we met. Yeah,
like I grew up Southern Baptist, and I think, like when I got out of high school, I kind of left. Like, I deliberately stopped going to Baptist churches. And then, like, but I still kind of saw myself as a Christian, and I listened to Christian punk rock and heavy metal and stuff, and that was my, you
joined the military when you were 16.
I joined the military when I was 17.
Yeah, sorry, 17.
17.
So before you got out of high school, you had already signed documents, signing your life away to the military. Before you even got out of high school.
I mean, that sounds bad, but
that's what, like,
I signed up for the military.
Ready to serve your country before you were even out of high school, and you signed the documents to do so, and then, which you shouldn't have been able to do. You shouldn't have even had the legal right to do that.
Well, you could with a parent's.
So your parents signed you away. Big shock.
Yeah. Well, Mom. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I joined the Air Force, I wasn't going to church anymore, but I was still like, considered myself like a Christian, and I was still like, I would go to churches. But I didn't go to Baptist churches. It was more like, non-denominational stuff, and because I enjoy the fellowship and the music, and there's a lot of really good stuff in the building. Maybe not in the
theology.
yeah, theology. So and then I started playing in punk bands, and we started going to like the guys that I played in punk bands with went to like a Pentecostal church, which in the South is different than it is here in Newfoundland, but it's very like dancing and singing and speaking in tongues, and like it's a party going to church every Sunday. It's a big thing, but it's still very, very fundamentalist Christian. And anyway, I was kind of working my way. I don't know. I think when we met, like it was the tail end of like that part of me.
So how are religious folks like in that group? How are they with tattoos and piercings and things like that?
So in the world that I was in, like I was in a punk band. I was in a couple punk bands. We all had tattoos. Like I had a tattoo artist friend that gave us all discounts because we were religious. We were, he was kind of the same as us. He listened to heavy metal, Christian music, and like, so. Also
very, very kind, nice group of people, very accepting of everybody. No?
No, yeah. I mean, it's funny because like I remember I was deployed one time when I was in the Air Force. I was in a band with these guys, and I went away for 4 months, and I came back, and I remember one of my buddies was like, "Listen, we made a gay friend while you were gone." Somebody that worked like at one of the new jobs. Somebody got a new job, and then was like, so anyway. So
how was your like family of origin who were still going to Southern Baptist churches? How were they with you being in these Christian groups that were kind of punk church?
They didn't care about as long as I was still going to church.
Okay.
Because like it's
but they didn't want you going to Catholic church.
Oh, that wasn't church.
No, I know.
That's a whole different. That's a whole different.
They were pretty disappointed that I wasn't saved.
I don't know if it would be worse to post stuff from the Satanic Temple or a Catholic church. Seriously,
you're joking.
I'm serious.
That's not true.
It's like we went to a Catholic church on a field trip one time for Sunday school to watch them, like a zoo. Like, look what they're doing. They're eating food in church.
So they're probably loving this podcast.
We're not even allowed to have food in the sanctuary. They're over there drinking wine and eating crackers.
It's not crackers. It's wafers. It's bread. Crackers.
Anyway.
I feel like I should bless myself right now. Just
here's a funny. I got another funny story
crackers.
For you.
You're crackers.
This is a fun podcast. I'm glad we did this.
Me too.
So my other grandmother, my dad's mom, super Southern Baptist, religious, like very sang in the choir very proper, very like. I think I heard her say she was mad once, and that was like.
Is that what she said? She was so mad she could spit?
Because the cat had killed a mouse and left it on the front porch, and it made her so mad she could spit. Anyway, so that was.
Bless her heart.
That was Nana.
Did I use that right?
Bless her little heart.
Bless.
So okay, so here's a funny story. One time when I was playing in punk bands, going to church and all that stuff, this like. I don't think that those grandparents knew that I was playing punk. Like they didn't come to my shows or anything. They were, in their 60s.
What?
So anyway, there was a thing. I had gone to Greensboro where they lived for the weekend because there was a rock concert happening. It was a Christian rock concert. It was like kind of a heavy band, long hair, heavy. It was early 2000s. It was like Limp Bizkit-esque, like rap rock almost, like kind of heavy stuff. But so
sounding.
Yeah, sounding.
But the material was still very Christian.
Thematically it was very
Gotcha.
So I was there, and so after like that weekend, after the show was like a Saturday, and then Sunday, like I went to visit my grandparents who lived in the same town, and I was there at dinner, and they were watching the news, and on the news there was like, they just saw that a rock concert had happened in town on the news, and they did the news cameras got in real close to the band, and they see their long hair and they're sweating, and it still looked like a regular rock concert, And my Nana was disgusted. She was like, that long hair, and that's so disgusting. I can't
Jesus had long hair.
I can't even believe it. She was disgusted. And I was like, I didn't say anything. It was like, this band was called Disciple. Okay. They stopped their shows halfway through and did a little sermon. No joke. I was like, you have this is
no idea.
this is so down your alley. Like, you know what I mean? Up your alley? Anyway.
Up your something.
Anyway, so yes, my family was fine as long as I was still going to church every Sunday. And then I think when we met, it was like, that was the tail end of me being a church.
But to be fair, the church that you were going to was, what was it called?
The Pentecostal church?
No, Jay Baker's.
Oh, see, I didn't go there because he lived in Atlanta. We went and visited sometimes.
But he used to come do stuff.
He would come and do like a
in North
talk
Carolina.
at places sometimes.
Oh,
but
okay.
yeah, it wasn't like
What was it called?
Revolution
Church. So when I met Josh, he was a part of Revolution Church and was friends with Jay Baker, the Jay Baker. We stayed at his house.
I don't think the Jay Baker means anything to a lot of people. Jim and Tammy Faye Baker's son, Jay Baker.
Yeah. So we stayed at Jay's house in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
It was like, but when Josh and I first met, we hit it off. I don't think I've told a story on the podcast. It's not the time or place for it.
That's all right.
But let's fast forward a little bit. When he flew back to North Carolina after landing in St. John's for a few days, we were talking on MySpace.
MSN?
MSN.
Yeah,
Just one of those
something
things.
like that. One of those old
And so,
chat.
I mean, very early on, like probably the second conversation we had, I'm down. I was living with a roommate and I had a whole basement to myself. It was awesome.
This is pre cell phones. Like we didn't.
Yeah.
We might have had camera phones, but we didn't have like smartphones or texting or like, you know.
So we had like an internet connection. We were chatting
on a computer.
And Josh said to me, you should know, this was early days, like second time probably on a chat online. Okay.
I think I was still in Greensboro on my way back home from, you know what I mean? Like I came home,
Literally
went to visit my family
hadn't
after
been back
deployment.
to where his bed
Hadn't
is.
gotten home yet.
And he says to me, it's funny, I was probably on a computer here somewhere in the house, and he says, I just want you to know religion is very important to me. And I remember like just shoving back the chair and going,
Was it that bad?
It was just like that. It was so embarrassing. Okay, so you get the point. I went, oh, good Lord. Ironic. I went, oh, sweet fucking Jesus. You got to be kidding me. Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's the guy.
What am I after getting into? And I don't know why, because that normally would have been such a red flag. And I was like, okay, what do you mean? And then he continued on. He said, you don't need to be religious, but this is really important to me. So I just need you to know that this is something that's important to me. And I was like, I'm not. I grew up Catholic. I do the Easter church and I do the Christmas Eve. But like, I'm not changing religions and I'm not religious. So, this is, and he was like, I don't care. That's fine. But I'm going to. So I was like, this probably isn't going to last. So it's fine. Let's just keep talking.
We live 1,000 miles away from each other.
How is this ever going to happen? He's in North Carolina, down next to where they shoot Dawson's Creek, and it's fine. It's fine. What's the harm in talking to somebody? And anyway, it's kind of funny that you fast forward 18 years and we're not making anybody happy with our religious decisions right now.
Is that right?
And that's okay. I think we're attracting people into our lives who are like us. But as far as like, are you going to be at church on Sunday? What do you call it? Witnessing, or, are you going to be doing the Stations of Crosses Easter?
Testifying.
Probably not. Like, but it's just not of interest. It's just not of interest. And, but it's kind of a.
I just thought of something else funny. Go ahead. You can finish what you were saying.
So I think it kind of ties into when we listen to Nateland. I don't know when I first started listening to Nate Bargatze. I love him so much. He tickles my funny bone. I don't know why.
And anybody that doesn't love him can just stop listening right now.
What is wrong with you?
I don't know.
He's kidding. But when I first started seeing clips of Nate Bargatze, it was like he had a couple of funny jokes, and I don't know, I couldn't even tell you what they were, but I just remember I would buckle over laughing, and it kept showing up in my feed, and I don't know how that started happening. But it wasn't until I was hooked. I saw, like, the first thing I saw was someone had his mom on a podcast talking about moms of people. I don't know what the name of it was, but his mom was talking about how he's a clean comic and a Christian comic, and she was digging in. She was like, we're so proud of him. He, witnesses, and I was like, what? Nate? No. He talks about wetting the bed because he came home drunk, and he talks about
That's pretty funny because I've seen Christian comedians that would like come to your church.
Yeah.
Like we talk, like Brian Bates talks about going to churches and doing, but like I've seen Christian comedians that'll come and they'll do jokes about the Bible and like jokes about being in church, and it's like you're getting like Christian content. But then there's like Christian friendly comedians where it's like, I'm not swearing, I'm not talking about sex or drugs or like I'm doing stuff that you can talk about in church, but it's not like church content. And I think
They're
that's
not
what
making fun of the Bible.
that's what
or
Nate
stuff.
and
So I never found
Dusty
his stuff to
Slade.
be religious at all.
That's what I mean. It's not religious. It's just friendly. It's
like about just comical stuff and, Jerry Seinfeld-esque, really. Like, just very observational. And I find it very funny. It really gets me in like he's very common man, very, he adores his wife, but he makes fun of their relationship. And it's just a lot of stuff that resonates. And he's such a good dad. From what I can tell, I don't know him, but he's so good with his daughter and so empowering with his wife that I'm in love. Like, I'm so in love with Nate and I love what he does. And so that kind of led to the specials, which are like an hour of just buckle over, laugh your butt off, laugh your ass off. What am I doing? I'm not doing a Christian podcast. Yeah, all the time. So I got really hooked. And then when we started listening to the Nateland podcast, so in comes, but the first inkling that I had that he was what we'd call clean, I had no idea. I mean, I know he's not Andrew Dice Clay, who was just pure filth.
That's the thing. You don't really notice.
I didn't notice.
Like with a good clean comedian, you don't notice that it was like
just
Brian
funny.
Regan is a clean comedian. He's super famous.
Who's the other guy with the red hair? Jim Gaffigan. Super clean.
I wouldn't say he has red hair, but yeah, I know what you mean.
He's
just very pale.
He identifies as a red
as a ginger,
person.
yeah. But no, that you don't like. You don't notice. It's like good editing or good writing, like good formatting in a book. Like if you don't notice it, you're doing a good job. Like if you don't notice that they're.
It didn't occur to me, and so I had to go back through my mental files and go: is he clean? Is he Christian? I've never heard him talk about any of that stuff. And so the next thing was, I feel like there might have been something, but the one with the mom. It was a podcast.
He did a podcast with somebody that he used to go on the road with a lot. I think that's the
that
other thing,
might have been the second one.
Where Angela or something, where they talk a lot about church.
Her podcast is called Fungela or something like that.
Yeah.
And so there was a whole lot of I believe in this and whatever. And I was like, what? I was pretty shocked to hear that. So the thing is, we've been listening to the podcast for a really long time, and I guess I've just gotten used to the tone of it. Like, Nate is not, in my experience and I think I've seen everything he's done. I've seen him on Joe Rogan.
We're catching up on the podcast.
I've seen him on Christina P. and Tom Segura's. And I mean, they are filthy, hilarious, but filthy. And they talked to him and they were like, hey, I'm not going to repeat it because it is bad.
They were trying to get him. They were trying to get him.
But they were asking him
sex
things.
Stuff.
They were asking him things that they talk about all the time. So one of Tom Segura's favorite bits is about doing things to bums.
Bum stuff.
And he was asking directly, like, do you do this? And Nate was like, he stayed Nate. He didn't change. And there's other clips floating around of him talking to Kevin Hart and Keenan Thompson. And they're trying to get him to swear. And he's like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. But it was like, he stays Nate. Consistently, he's Nate. And I've never gotten a whiff of, a couple of times, he mentioned like he went to church with his wife because she goes and her family's, but I don't care what they do. It's never come up ever, but it seems like, I don't know, maybe I've gotten kind of used to the like brushing up against stuff like Aaron Weber is Catholic.
Yeah. Which is really funny to me because they're like, I'm serious. When I grew up, like Catholicism might as well not be religious or Christian at all. Like it was like to Southern Baptists, it's like such another planet. But it's so funny that he hangs out with them and they're like Southern Christian and he's like Catholic and they're like, they'll make jokes about it every now and then, but it's not like I
think the name of this podcast is going to be just 4 cross emojis. So I went to Catholic school right up until I graduated. I went to a Jesuit school for high school, and I mean, we went to church. We went to mass, like
as part of school.
Like the nuns would do service, like they wouldn't do services, but
I went to a Baptist school for kindergarten and first grade.
But
that was like a government.
The first few grades were like next to a church,
school.
So they would bring the whole class. Like we would go to church at least once a month. They'd bring all the kids over and we'd do a mass. And then when I got to high school, I mean, it was Jesuit principles. And I will say Jesuits are the most educated, not wealthy, but they they bring a lot of money to things. Like they will fund like the hockey team, they'll fund the debate team and all those extracurriculars. Like they make sure that the kids in that school are taken care of. And I don't remember anything about abuse or anything like that. So I will give a hat. I'm going to tip the hat to the Jesuits, to the ones that I encountered. I'm still friends with some of them on Facebook. Like they're,
reasonable,
wonderful. And they were always very, very, very educated. They excelled. Like they went so far with their education. It wasn't just religious studies. They went and were so educated. I keep saying the same word because I guess I'm not. But
really educated.
Smart, It's really educated. But I don't remember them ever mentioning other religions ever. It was never part of they never said anything about any other religions ever. It was, here's how we are, here's what we study, and it was a whole lot of be kind to other people. And there was just never, like we had confession, we had communion, we had confirmation. It was a whole lot of celebration, whole lot of guilt. That was the big one for me, was a lot of guilt. Like you're probably going to hell, but you can be a piece of shit your whole life, confess at the end, you're probably going to get into heaven. That tells me that we're an hour in already.
56 minutes.
So where was I?
Jesuits.
In church.
So you're talking about going to, you grew up going to Catholic school, but that was like in Canada, they for a long time the schools were run by either the Church of England or the Catholics, right? It was like
So what I learned from this book that we're in the process of helping somebody publish, I didn't realize that the connection. So the governments ran the schools, but there was religious districts. And the religion, like that church, and there would be schools like across the street from each other, Protestant and Catholic, and it depended on where you lived, and that was like according to your address.
And that was the only choices.
There were a couple of kids in our schools that were not those religions and would get like an exemption. They didn't have to attend mass. They didn't have to, and there was one girl, very good friend of mine. She was Christadelphian, and so she had a huge fight with the administration at the high school because she didn't want to refer to any of the priests as father. It was against her religion to do that, and it was a huge thing. And I was Catholic enough that I was like, "What is your problem? That's just their name.
That's what they're called."
But it's just their name. It's just a sign of respect. And she was like, "Yeah, but we don't respect that. We don't recognize it." And I was like, "We don't recognize it." I mean, that's the kind of whole conversation.
So
but anyway,
what about people that didn't have a religion?
There's no such thing.
There were
no
families that didn't go to church,
who weren't baptized or hadn't chosen a religion at birth. Not that I know of, but I do know I did have friends in high school. Turns out, I found out after that they were atheist families. And
yeah, that's what I mean.
They just went along because church was, it was just like you get
to
hang out and see your friends, and you could point at someone and stare at someone if you had a crush on them, and you get to walk past them maybe going into the church. It was no big deal, and we didn't do communion.
One of the best things about being atheist around a bunch of religious people is when they're praying, you can keep your eyes open.
Wow. Wow.
You can look at
you can see what they're all doing.
Look at the tops of all their heads.
Nobody's watching. But there was no communion in high school. I will say that. So maybe that was something they did a little bit different. So you didn't have to be a practicing Catholic to be in the church. So it was a lot of singing, I found like the homilies were really about us. Like there was something that was going on. If like the Ocean Ranger, there was like 14 of them that were from Gonzaga. So every year around Valentine's Day, they would have a big memorial for the Ocean Ranger victims. Yeah. Because so many of them were, our brothers and sisters from Gonzaga. So that was, and there was a lot of theme stuff. So like when we lost Rogan Power, there was a massive memorial service for him, like a celebration of life.
Who was that?
Rogan Power died in a car accident when we were 14. He died that summer, and when we came back to school, there was a massive one
of the students.
They let the kids organize the service. It was beautiful. It was really, really nice. So there was a lot of like support, but it wasn't necessarily. I mean, they did all the stuff, but I don't remember. Yeah, we did. Actually, now that I think about it, we did have communion, but you didn't have to go up, same as now. Anyway, I'm starting to sound like a real devout Catholic, but what I'm getting at is listening to the podcast. So we got one guy who's a Catholic. Brian Bates is
to the Nateland podcast.
Yeah. Brian's uber religious. Like he is uber religious.
He says things that are like, oh yeah, you go to church
a lot. Yeah, and he does a lot of church gigs and all that stuff. And then so Dusty Slay comes in.
It's funny that Dusty is like, he seemed, so I remember growing up with a lot of people that were like, that knew the Bible. That like knew like had read the whole thing, knew it verse by verse, could like say specific stuff about it, and it was like just like those super nerds in school, but like for church. And Dusty seems like one of those guys where it's like you would. I don't know. I remember having friends, even like when I was in the military, like when I was grown, that would be like, "Oh, you don't know about the."
I don't find him like that at all.
No,
I find him that he knows a lot about a lot of stuff.
I don't find him.
That's just one of the things he's really.
I don't find him condescending about it.
No.
I just find him very, very knowledgeable because he'll say stuff that's like, "Holy moly, that's an obscure reference to the Bible."
But he has all these. He researches so much.
He doesn't seem like he's not pushing what he like. Brian talks about his religion a lot, but anyway, I just it's a fun dynamic. I think.
Well, Nate mentioned in a podcast a while back that he went to church with somebody, and they showed him like a back door, kind of like to kind of slip in.
Yeah.
For easier parking or something like that, and he was like,
it's because that's a southern church thing. When everybody's going into church, it's like going into Costco. There's just like 1,000 people in the porch, the foyer of the church. Yeah. The pastor's there, people are there, and you haven't seen everybody for a week, or you're.
So he was talking about after church, I think.
I thought he was talking about going in.
This is why it got confusing because
that's the same thing. After church, the pastor's standing by the door. He's shaking everybody's hand. Yeah. There's a lineup. Yeah. Like it's like a bottleneck. And so he was talking about like having a different way to go, so he doesn't have to be.
And I don't know which one he was avoiding, but he said something like, you don't have to deal with all the people. And he was talking about the parking lot. And Brian said something like, "Oh, God forbid you go to church and have to talk to people." And I was like, "Dude, tone it down a little tiny bit. It's Nate Bargatze. Like, give him a break. He probably talks to a lot. I don't know. See, I don't know my business, but." Watching that podcast,
you jumped to his defense virtually.
Well, because I don't know, it was just an innocent little thing that he was saying, and he corrected it, and he was like, "No, I love talking to people. That wasn't like that at all. It was about parking and getting out of the parking lot somehow, so he wasn't stuck in. I don't know or care
like the people that leave it before the third period's over.
That is a religion to me. That is disgusting. Why? Don't waste my time. Don't block my view. Like, I haven't been to a hockey game in a really long time, but I get very angry about this. People who leave in the third period when it's a tie game, I mean.
What about this? What about this? Okay.
I can't.
I know how you feel about baseball.
I don't love it.
What about people that leave at like the 8th inning?
I think people should leave baseball at the 2nd inning. Why would you bother?
But that's the same thing.
Who cares what happens at baseball? But if you sat through 2.5 periods of hockey and it's tied, first of all, when you get up and get to your car, you're blocking my view. Sit down, shut up, or don't go to the game at all.
I'm gonna have to turn your mic down if you don't tone your excitement about hockey down a little bit.
I want to take people's jackets and pull it over their head and punch them right in the gut if they get up. And I can't. That is one thing. Religion, I don't care about. Leaving a hockey game early? I don't even want to say it, but you know what I'm thinking. Like, there's a place in hell for you.
You're going to hockey hell.
I just don't understand. If you care about hockey at all, why would you leave when this game... Like, how important is whatever you need to get to?
They were just there for the fries and the nachos.
I understand that. You got me really riled up about that.
I know, right?
Did you know that I had this button to be pushed?
We did a whole episode about religion, then you started freaking out about hockey.
Which to me isn't much. Okay, here's what I love about hockey. In all my years of interviewing hockey players and being in the locker room and being around the press box, there's a few things. Press box, kind of a sausage fest. Like, that was a little bit, maybe it's changed, but when I was down there, it was very much male-centered. There was no place for girls. And even though the laws told me differently, the press box, especially here in Newfoundland, was very male-centric, and girls weren't welcome, and actually they were kind of pigs to me and a couple of the other girls that were up there. But the locker room and the hockey team, they never, ever, when they got on the ice, that you didn't know if there was a problem in the locker room. They were a team, they supported each other, and you didn't know if this guy was sleeping with that guy's wife or whatever. Like, you didn't know what was going on the ice. They were a team, and they presented as a team, and they supported each other. And if you ran the goalie, you knew the defenseman was coming for you. Like, there was no question of that family dynamic, which I guess that's what I'm missing, or was missing back then. That's why I loved hockey so much. I just didn't understand anybody going and. Why would you leave? Like, at this, we need your support. We need you cheering in the stands. The players can hear you. Like, it just feels like such an emotional experience.
So you're
like,
okay with Nate trying to beat the traffic after church, though?
I don't care what Nate does. I don't care if he leaves church early. I don't care if he goes to church. What I'm saying is, listen to that podcast. I don't get any kind of religious overtones from Nate, and that's why I listen to it, because I like the advice he has, the stories that he has from behind the scenes, how he has literally crawled his way one fan at a time from being a barker in New York to probably the most popular comedian on the planet right now. Like, and he's kind and sweet and so funny. So that's why I listen to Nate. And so do I judge him by who he surrounds himself with? I don't care who he hangs around with. Is he like, he went on Joe Rogan. I listened to the podcast. Joe is Joe, and he's got a fabulous podcast. And as far as like how to grow your podcast, I mean, you get freedom of speech. I'm going to get on my stump now. Okay. Freedom of speech means speech for everybody, not just who you agree with.
Yeah.
And so...
Yeah, that's a dangerous path.
It's a dangerous path. And so when we were in the U.S. and I was working at community TV stations, did I do camera and produce and edit for people who I didn't agree with? Absolutely. Because it was free speech. And, I mean, did I work on my own shows? Did I agree with everybody that I was working for or working on projects? No, of course not. But I believe in free speech. And... words, Josh has drilled this into me so many times. That sounds violent, but it's very, very not, very non-violent. Josh's whole mantra is, so nothing happened? You weren't hurt? Nothing actually happened? And it really has changed how I look at things. So when somebody's, I almost died, like, wait, so what actually happened? Like, what actually happened? And it feels like those stories that you tell yourself they don't help. And they feed, like, the language that you use when you tell yourself, because you got 2 ears listening every time you open your mouth. And your brain is actually paying attention to what you're saying. So when you say, oh, I have these traumatic events, I couldn't possibly whatever. Like, the more you keep saying that, the more you're going to believe it eventually. And then what is the point of the rest of your life if you feel like you can't do stuff? Like... what if you told a different story or used different language? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm off on a tangent, but I know where I was headed with that one. Like, it is, I'm not going to, like, this election is going on right now, and it is ugly. Ugly. And I'm seeing people that are very gentle, wonderful people, kindest people you'll ever meet in your life, but they're so angry, and they're ready to write people off because, okay, I'm going to tread into the water here. This is not a political podcast, but, because I don't really know enough about politics. But I do know that I love Wayne Gretzky. I love Wayne Gretzky. He is the greatest hockey player that has ever put on skates. His records speak for themselves. He has been a gentleman from the day he stepped on the ice. He's a Canadian icon. He's a legend. There's never been any stories of, like, beating up his wife or abusing his kids, or there's been none of that garbage. I don't know. Maybe he just has a really good public relations team. I don't know. But there are people, a lot of them, who are ready to turn on Wayne Gretzky because he's friends with Donald Trump. I don't care if he's, like, okay, let's say this sentence slowly. Wayne Gretzky's a good hockey player, and I think he's a good person. If he's friends with Donald Trump, that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean he doesn't... the bad guy is the one doing the bad stuff.
Right.
And I don't even know that he's the one doing the bad stuff. He just has most of the country that voted him in. So maybe the people that voted for him are not so great. There's a lot of them. But getting mad at one figure who, guess what, doesn't even care, you know? I'm just not ready to jump on the hate train with any of it. And so I feel like we had nobody's going to watch this. Nobody this is going to be but we had a call last week. Somebody asked us this week, are you okay sharing this?
Sure.
We had a call last week from someone who needed some video work done. And it was for a political party that I wouldn't vote for, ever. And the conversation, like listening to the copy, and this is not going in the clips, right? This is like, you got to listen to the podcast. You got to earn this information. Mm-hmm. But the copy was, wow. So far removed from what I believe.
Yeah.
And it was like, so are you going to do the work? And I was like, I mean, I don't know. Are the other parties offering us video work? It's a tough, like that's, and I talked to the kids about it. I said, how do you guys feel about it? And Peter didn't care. Henry was like, you know what? Because Peter's too young to have, you know. Peter's
like, what can we buy with the money?
Yeah. Can I have some of the money? But, and Great. That's how we should. I think that's a great way to look at life.
Yeah.
Well, who cares? But Henry was like, you know what, Mom? It's personal and it's business. Keep the two of them separate and we'll be fine. As long as you know what you believe, this is business.
And if we don't do it, somebody else will. It's going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
It's not like we're going to stop it from happening.
So did we do the job? I guess I don't know.
You'll never know.
We'll never know. Things have a way of working out, is what I'm saying. But it was a tough, like, this idea. It was like, we're gonna fight hate with love. I was like, you're so hateful, and I find it hard to not see it now, because when people are hateful, it's hateful, it's hateful, it's hateful. And so saying this person shouldn't be allowed to say this, like, it's just words. And if your neighbor decides they're going to go do something because they heard words, your neighbor's responsible for what they do, not the person who said the thing. And I feel like sometimes we'll hear our kids on a call and there'll be something that's like a little uncomfortable or something like that. And it's like, you know what? I don't like the influence that person has on you. So maybe this person doesn't need to be in your life anymore. That's a little bit different because we're talking about children and who we don't need them to grow up too fast. And so, you know, I think that's kind of a different thing. But as far as telling adults that they can't listen to other adults, or I'm not going to be friends with you because you're friends with that person who might have talked to this person, is like, whew.
I think that the dangerous thing about the kind of politics and that kind of talk is lumping everybody into one group. And when you sit down, I don't care who you sit down and talk to. I haven't ever sat down and talked to somebody one-to-one that was of different affiliation or that had different viewpoints than me, and not been able to make a connection. Like, you're a person, I'm like, you know what I mean? It's not like a comic book or an old Western where, like, this is an evil person, this is a good person, and then there's this whole group that these are all good people and these are all evil people. It's like, they're all people. They all got kids to feed and bills to pay, and like things. You got a bad knee from high school that you're dealing with every time you stand up, and like, it's all, everybody individually is an individual, and you all have everybody has their own life, and lumping everybody in together because of a t-shirt they wear or a jersey or a hat or a pin is dangerous. Because really, if you think about it, the people in every political party are trying to do the same thing. They're all trying to make their lives better. They're trying to get more money in their own pocket. They're trying to get better health care. They're trying to get a better daily life. Like, everybody's trying to do the exact same thing. You wrote a song about this back during COVID. Like, we're all saying the same thing.
Just saying it different.
It's just different words. So, like, lumping everybody into, like, the black hats and the white hats is like, that's real dangerous. And I think that's why politics works so well.
Really
that's why they're so successful financially, because you can say, oh, I'm this and you're this, and let's fight and let's buy and let's sell.
The formula.
And, like, it's
the
money.
Formula
it's all money
is to say something scary, say something you should be afraid of, and then serve up a villain that you can all attack. And it's just such a... But I know we've met people sometimes who we get along with great, and then they'll mention something like, I'm sorry, what? You don't believe in what?
You do what?
You do what now? Whoa. Whew. And
it's hard to be like, but the past couple of weeks that we've been having barbecues or going to a class together or whatever, you've been cool. And now that there's this thing you said that's like, oh, are you one of them?
Yeah.
Are you wearing that kind of hat? Like, I got to lump you in, and we got to...
You mean cowboy hats, right? You're not talking about... Okay.
Black hat and white hat. Yeah, that old idea of, like, the good guy and the bad guy that, you know...
I just think it's a dangerous, like, and I find what helps me now, what's keeping me kind of level, is I'm in Canada. So being angry about, I got into this with my little brother way back when the 99%, when they were all camping out on Wall Street around that big bull statue. It was way back when they discovered that 99% of us, there's 1% carries the wealth of whatever, and then there's 99% of the rest of us.
That was like 15 years ago.
It was a long time ago. And so I was like, we were living in the US at the time, but I remember my little brother was very angry at me because I wasn't out protesting. And like, what do you mean I'm not posting on Facebook? Like, I'm not a keyboard warrior? Like, that doesn't actually do anything. What I find, like, I feel like you can make a big difference by just being kind to each other.
If you surround yourself with hate and anger, and you're just going to bang your head into the wall because you're just going to be surrounded by it, and it's going to be your whole life.
So it's not that, I don't think it's that we don't care or that we're not involved. It's that we deliberately choose how we contribute to the community around us. And it's, you know, if you know what we do and all that stuff, it's pretty clear, I think. But, and not to be like, we're so wonderful. It's really just,
we are really wonderful.
It's so uncomfortable when I encounter hate from somebody, and it's so surprising when it comes from somebody who's so loving in so many other ways. And it's like, hold on a second, I need to agree with you for us to continue being friends. That alone triggers something in me. And it's like, free will, free speech, less trusted people are good people. They're all good people, and everybody gets to do what you get to choose what you want for your life. And there's not a big pie that, like, if one person takes this much, you get less. The pie gets bigger. Like, it's not pie. Life is not pie. The wealth of, money and opportunities and all that stuff is not pie. It's not a finite thing. Someone else getting something doesn't mean you don't get what you want, because we all want different things. And so what my definition of success is not necessarily, like, you can put me in a room with another musician and maybe her definition or his definition is not the same as mine. So we're running for the same, piece of cheese, but it's like, people want different things. Some people want albums and sell out stadiums, and
you could both get to your goals and be in completely different rooms.
And and both feel very successful.
Right.
And so, that's kind of, and maybe there is somebody that wants exactly what you want. And so it just makes me a little bit sad just to have anybody kind of bring hate our way. And like, I've been trying to stay off Facebook as much as possible, because I'm just seeing these really kind, very, very nice people sharing things that are like, is this helping anything? Like, and it's such from having a journalism and marketing background, so much of it is bullshit. It's fabricated. Like, I saw an article just the other day, and it was about this thing that happened here in Petty Harbor, and a journalist wrote it and said, these are the things that happened, and this is what this political party came into town, and this is what they did. And the story that this person told, who is a journalist, should have some integrity, should be telling the truth. And here's what I took from it. They were like, yeah, this political party drove in, wouldn't let anybody near this, made them all go in this room, wouldn't let them get whatever. And the story that we're meant to believe was that this pack of journalists with cameras didn't capture a single image of this stuff that's supposed to have happened.
There's no footage of any of it.
No footage with cameras. Okay, in this day and age, like, did they take your phones? Did they turn your cameras off? Like,
right.
What year is it? So you wrote these words, and it's being shared like gangbusters. It's gone viral. People are believing it. They're sharing it. They're going, can you believe this political party does? And it's like, is there any evidence?
It's so hard, like, especially now. Like, there was a thing, this was a total joke. There was TikTok videos of people making fun of this Donald Trump clip where he was talking about the District of Columbia. I don't know if you saw anything about that, but it was like, he was saying, District of Columbia, what does Columbia even mean? Who's Columbia? Like, we don't have anything to do with Columbia. It's a different country. We're going to start calling it the District of America.
Oh, that's a good idea.
It was AI. It was an AI-generated clip that some comedian had put on TikTok, and all these people were sharing it like, I can't believe how stupid this man is. And I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying, like, how do you know what's... Like, it's so fucking hard to find, like, figure out what's, like, on social media.
Real.
On social media, I've been looking at it lately just as 100% entertainment. Like, I know that this probably isn't, it's like going to the movies. It's like watching a cartoon on Saturday mornings. Like, none of this is real. This is a funny thing. It was probably staged. There you go. It was probably staged, but I'm going to laugh at it because it's a funny idea. And
it's working.
You know what I mean?
Working.
Like, it's like, how do you...
It's all marketing.
It's not news.
It's all marketing.
Like, in Canada, they ban news from social media. So.
It's all, every single post that I see on Facebook, it's all marketing. Whether I'm putting on Facebook, I had a hard day today and I'm sending you big hugs and love. Guess what? I want you to think I'm a good person, and I want you to say back to me, you're a good person and I love you, and here's a hug, because I need to hear, like... Even the most sincere stuff is you're trying to tell people who you are, because you know how you want people to respond, and this is how you're doing it. It's communication. You're sending out a message. Some people are picking it up the wrong way. Some people are getting it exactly right, but it's all communication, and it's how we feed off each other. And It's when it's digital, there's such a delay in, like, we're feeling all this stuff right now. We're recording our podcast. This is like time travel, right?
Yeah.
So someone listens to this 3 days from now. I'm not in the same headspace. I'm not going to be post-show doldrums in 4 days.
We have vented.
We will have moved on, and we will have vented. And hopefully this will reach people who are in whatever space, and maybe it helps. Or maybe they just go, that's it, never listening to them again. And you know what? I trust that people on the same frequency will find us. I trust that people who don't agree, who don't like us, will keep on scrolling. But I grew up in Mundy Pond, and my father got chains. And I'm also pretty scrappy, so I'm okay. Like, it's not like I feel like I've been walking through life for a really long time now, just really fragile, and like, I hope nobody yells at me or doesn't like my podcast. And it's like, I can handle people not liking my podcast. As long as there's someone that likes it, there's a reason to keep on doing it. Otherwise, I'll talk to you all day long. That's no sweat.
We don't even have to turn the mics on.
We don't. But as long as people are liking it, I think that's my reason to keep on going, to keep doing what we do, because there is enough good. There's enough good, and whatever you're putting in is what you're getting out, really.
You should write a song about that.
I did.
Listen,
I do have one story.
Okay, if we're gonna keep going, I gotta restart.
No, it's just for 1 second.
Okay.
But it's about I did garden party at the Songwriter Circle, and my guitar would not tune.
Oh man,
with the new strings.
It was.
And I'm sitting next to. I mean, I'm just on another planet, and Joel goes, "Do you want to use this guitar?" And I just about slid right off the chair out into the audience. I went. Yep.
I heard him say something when he was talking to Richie before the show, and I think he said it was from 1949. 47, something like that. Like, it was a classic guitar. It was vintage.
He's vintage.
It was very nice.
Awesome. And it was just the gentlemanly kind. He is the sweetest, absolute sweetest human being.
So you played Garden Party on Joel Hines'?
I played Garden Party on Joel Hines' guitar, and he was so gracious. It was just one of the top 6 experiences of my life. Meeting Josh, marrying Josh, and having our children. Top 5. But I mean, it was phenomenal. And it's like, on top of the post-show letdown, it's like, oh my God, what do you do after that? It was amazing.
It was a really,
everything
really
I
great
hoped.
show.
It was absolutely everything I hoped for and more. It was amazing. And what were you going to say?
I was just going to say that we might have some exciting podcast news coming up in the next couple weeks involving sponsors and collaborations. So I'm excited about that.
Oh, we do have some stuff.
So we'll keep. So, we don't need to. We'll talk about it as it happens. But we got some exciting stuff coming up for the podcast. So stay tuned, because that's going to be fun stuff.
It's going to be really fun. So I guess we are open to that stuff. Who knows?
And this is 20 episodes. We're done with the 20 episodes.
Congratulations! This has been really fun. I really like it.
Woo-hoo.
So our non-religious, non-political podcast is all. This episode is all about religion and politics.
I wrote a note on here. I'm going to title this one "Religious Studies."
Oh, I think
that'll get a good response.
Yowza. That one's... Anyway.
We'll see. But by the time that anybody hears this, they will have already seen whatever the title is.
I was headed somewhere with that Nate stuff, because they do talk a certain way. And you have given me like a little bit of a lesson in that, because I'm not even aware of it anymore. I feel like, I don't know, I'm just maybe oblivious to it or something like that, but...
There's a lot to be said for cultural communication too, because they're all from Tennessee and Alabama and stuff. So it's like there's going to be some cultural communication differences from people in Newfoundland or in Vancouver or LA or whatever. Like, if you grew up in the South, going to church, and no matter what you believe, you're still going to have this language and this way of talking that's different. Like, not just in the South, people that grew up in New York or people that grew up in Oregon or whatever. Like, if you grew up in England, you're gonna have a different way of communicating with
my
people.
advisor at USM was from New York, and we clicked. Like, we were speaking the same language. I don't know how. I mean, we were living in Maine, so maybe I was a little bit out of my element. But I remember when he took over as my advisor, I graduated very quickly. I think we were speaking.
It's an important thing to think about, though, communication and the differences in just in location. Just like if we grew up in different places, you and I, but we communicate well because we know each other, and we've worked it out. We've talked over the past 18, 19 years.
Common thread. Are you ready for this? We love each other.
There it is. There's the word.
It makes a big difference. And I think the less, like, when you take love out of the equation, the more love you take out of an equation, the worse things get.
Yeah.
And so is like, when you're not seeing that stuff, it's easy to hate people. It's easy to get on that frequency, and you're just going to see more and more stuff to hate about people. And you have to actually stop yourself and say, do you want to enjoy your life? Because there's lots of stuff to be mad about. There's lots of stuff to hate.
This is just another person.
It's exactly the opposite is also true. There's a whole lot of stuff to be happy about.
Yep.
And there's a whole lot of stuff to love. And people, like, why would you waste time thinking about people you don't like?
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're doing a podcast called Are You Mad at Me? And you want to tell your little segment. But, we move on and it's funny and whatever. But, like, it seems like that might be the common thread, is that love and respect and admiration and appreciation.
I like that.
They all grow when you focus on them. And if you, like, when sometimes when people get mad at you and you're like, it came out of nowhere. Sometimes people just decide they're done with you. And they're just waiting for the next little tiny itty bitty thing that you do. And it's an explosion. But, like, they were kind of maybe just waiting for that to happen because they wanted an out. And that's okay, because everybody deserves to be loved. You ready for this one?
Yep.
Here's my thought for this week. This is what I learned this week.
Okay.
Closing
thoughts.
Even the people that I don't like deserve to have people in their life who just love them unconditionally. They don't need me around going, I'm doing you a favor being your friend. I forgave you 15 times. Look, I'm overlooking these things you've done. Like, you know what? That's crap.
Everybody deserves to have people in their lives that love them.
You deserve to have people that just put you on a pedestal and love you unconditionally. Everybody deserves that.
Yep.
Everybody. I think if we were, I'm just going to do my southern impression.
Here we go.
I just forgive everybody. I just love everybody. I think if I wanted to blame church, if I wanted to say that I'm witnessing or something, or like that whatever, I think you could put it in that language. We're not religious. We don't do that stuff. We don't do the churchy stuff. But I think we're proof that you can be good people, living good lives. And I missed church. Like, I missed the religion. Like, I missed the
fellowship and people,
the fellowship and the music.
The relationships could be really positive and good things.
There's a lot of positives, and then there's a lot of.
I played church basketball all through high school.
Yeah.
And I made some fantastic friends, and we traveled, and I wasn't good enough to play high school basketball, but they couldn't, like Nate said, they can't cut you from the church team. But I, You
had lots of good experiences. You went to church camp. You were a camp counselor at a church camp.
Yep.
So you did. I didn't do any of that stuff, but we had, like, the Salvation Army used to come to our neighborhood I'd say probably every 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and their entire band would, like, right across in the fields across from my house, in Mundy Pond, the whole Salvation Army band would show up, and it was just beautiful music.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't know if there was
That's how they get you.
Sometimes there was singing, but it was like, nobody said to me, you can't listen to them because they're Salvation Army.
I grew up on...
And they weren't recruiting. Maybe they were. I don't know. But
I grew up on Southern gospel bluegrass. Like, put a bluegrass album on for me, and they could be saying the most, like, it could be a hymn that they sing, and they often do, but it's like... Yeah. It's
music.
It's something that I grew up with, and it feels good to me. And I don't care that what they're talking about, but it's like, I grew up in, like, my grandparents went to this tiny little church in the mountains of North Carolina that was usually about 30 people there total, if on a good Sunday. And the whole back half of the church was the piano player, the guitar player, the quartet sat back there, their families, and they would be all doing the harmony for the hymns, and it was just like
amazing.
The music, like, it was, oh man.
So one of my first experiences when we lived.
This was we were doing closing remarks a minute ago. Now we're getting all fired.
But when
back
we
up.
lived in North Carolina, Josh brought me to a singing and an eating.
That's it.
And that's what it's called. So we actually have pictures of us with the sign. Sometimes things, just serendipity happens, right? But we took pictures of each other sitting on the guardrail, and there's this giant sign that says Mulberry Creek with a big
Mulberry
arrow.
Creek Baptist Church.
Yeah.
That's their sign, yeah.
Yep.
But
and
they would have singings like one Saturday a month, and they would have the church's quartet, which was a Southern gospel bluegrass quartet, and they would perform, and they would invite another group or singer or quartet to come from another church in the area or like in the surrounding state. Sometimes they'd come from like Tennessee or South Carolina or whatever. And man, it was like you could go to the South Carolina State Bluegrass Festival and see this same caliber of like musicianship, and it was amazing. And then so that would be like an hour, and then for an hour you'd go into the fellowship hall, and everybody'd have home cooked fried chicken and cakes and pies, and oh man.
My favorite thing about the singing part was the bass singers, because in a little tiny church in the South, in the mountains, and they'd have these bass players that would like The pews. Do you call them pews?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, the seats would vibrate. It would move.
One time,
and Josh, I remember I was like, that's so amazing because it vibrates all through your body. I mean, it's almost like, it's a pretty good experience. And I remember you going, he's just showing off. I love bass singers. I absolutely love it.
One time I was at a singing, and there was a traveling quartet came from. It was one of the times it was like, these people are coming from far.
Yeah.
These are like from Virginia.
Yeah.
I mean, they drove a couple hours to be here. But they were like a professional. I don't remember who. I wish I could remember who it was, but it was like a proper bluegrass quartet, and they were incredible. And they were prepared for a bigger venue. So I had my great uncle. So my great grandmother's sister was in the one of the pews kind of over next to me, and her husband, they were like in their 80s, and they played this quartet played their first song, and then afterwards they were like, how's everybody doing? Everybody good? How's it sound okay out there? And my Uncle Larry goes, it's a bit loud. They were like, all right, well,
Okay, this is really far from church, but we were at a dance in Portugal Cove one time, and there was a band playing, and my Uncle Dennis, God rest his soul, he's been gone a long time, but he did that. He actually, this was back in the days, and he was drinking and stuff, and so we were all just sitting at the table, and he was like, it's hurting my ears, and I couldn't tell, I couldn't identify, oh, it's the bass or whatever. It was just like, it's just loud, and I was a 20-year-old or whatever. Loud didn't bother me. I love going to concerts and standing right in front of the speakers. But he actually walked up on the stage. This is like an old school or whatever, like an old,
like a cafegimatorium.
But my uncle walked up on the stage, walked up over the stairs, up to the side, walked across the stage, and leaned over to the lead singer. And the guy went, okay, and then they turned their bass down. It was so embarrassing. But he was able to enjoy the music after that, but it was like that. I guess there's a certain age where you decide. I mean, I will say that someone here did bring earplugs to the last couple of shows we went to.
I think I might be discovering something about myself, because the past couple of times I've gone to the Black Sheep, which is one of my favorite places to go in town, like as far as bars and venues is concerned. But it is like they get rock bands in there, and they're loud. And I grew up playing punk music and going to punk shows. And
you wore earplugs at Alan's show too, though.
That's what so we went to the Black Sheep a month or so ago, and I was like, it's loud in there. So I usually, my whole head's ringing for 2 days after a show.
That means you had a good time. You don't get a tingle up the back of your spine and your ears aren't ringing. That's what the line should be.
So I got some little earplugs, and I could hear perfectly. It was like everything just went down to a reasonable level. I could still hear you talking next to me, but like the music didn't. And when I took them out after the show, it was like silence. It was gorgeous. And then we went to the Alan Doyle show, and it was the same thing. It was like a big 1,500 person venue. Yeah. We were right up front, next to the speakers and stuff, and I took those freaking earplugs.
Do you want some earplugs? But I think I'm like, no, Grandpa.
I think there might be some sensory stuff going on there that's like, this is way better. I didn't realize I was so uncomfortable with that loud noise.
I just realized this is going to come back to bite me, because I have an eye appointment next week, and so I'm probably going to have to get bifocals.
I grew up with my grandfather, so that Nana, the one that was complaining about the people with the long hair and the rock music, her husband worked in a cedar plant for 50 years of his life in Greensboro, and he lost his hearing early. But before I knew him, he couldn't, everybody had to just yell at him all the time. For some reason, his wife could just talk at a normal level, and he heard her frequency was in there. He could hear her just fine. But
you say this about my dad. You said he can hear me talking.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
But you have to yell at him.
That's what I want to avoid that. I don't want to be...
I can lean over to Dad in a crowd and say, oh, look at that guy, look what he's doing, whatever.
Yeah, he hears you exactly.
He hears exactly.
But when I'm like, you have to hit Control, Alt, Delete on your computer to whatever. He's like, what? And I'm like, you can't hear a thing I'm saying.
Maybe it's your accent.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe that's what it is. I think we covered everything.
I think so.
This was, I gotta say, probably my favorite episode so far, because Josh talked this was heavy on Josh.
I didn't realize how many religion stories I had. I was gonna tell you about Baptist church camp when I was in high school, but
And we'll save that for the next
save
one.
that for the
But I think
next
these are really great stories because, we're going to love each other. And I know Josh, I think my point was, I'm going to bring it back around. Josh is posting funny stuff. Like, remember when your dad passed away?
I thought about that this week too.
Okay, so we were big fans of Roseanne, the original show with Jackie Harris and I mean, what were the real names? I don't know.
Roseanne Barr and John Goodman.
John Goodman. And, what's Jackie's name? Laurie Metcalf.
Laurie Metcalf, yeah.
So back in my favorite scene from Roseanne was when their dad passed away. They were calling around to tell people that he had passed away. And so they were calling all their relatives that were hard of hearing. And one of them was like an old lady. And anyway, you've probably seen it. If you don't like Roseanne, then you're
whatever.
Probably not going to look it up. But whatever. Anyway, so Jackie, the sister, is calling all these relatives. And she was like, Dad, I got some bad news, Barbara. Dad has passed, and she just has to scream.
It just escalates more and more.
It's
She's yelling
so
and
bad.
yelling. And then she ends up going, "Dad's dead, dead." And then I think at the end of it, before she hangs up, she goes, "Dad's fine," and hangs up the phone.
So,
and she goes, "Roseanne, you're calling the next one."
Yeah. So when Josh's dad passed away, Josh, you get to decide how you grieve. I don't know if everybody agrees with that, but I think when you're the person, that circle of influence, right? Like when you're the son of the guy who died, you can kind of determine how you, what you want to surround yourself with. So we are funny. We maybe we're weird, but we found, like, at the time, reading the room and how Josh was feeling because his dad had died while we were living in here and he was in North Carolina. Were we in Maine?
We were in Maine.
We were in Maine.
Still, we were.
But he
far
had been,
away.
he was slipping away, and we didn't have enough money to go visit him before he passed, and all that stuff. So we get the news that he's passed away, and so it's this big rush to get him to the funeral and all that stuff. And Josh is like overwhelmed. He's traveling without his family. He's got 2 small kids at home.
This is for the funeral.
It was for the yeah. And so couldn't afford to send all of us, and so he's traveling by himself. And so his support network, who we've established over the years that we are each other's support network, and so traveling to something that is that traumatic and awful. I mean, nothing actually happened to you. It was just a sad day, and we couldn't be there to hug you. Nothing. You were fine. You were healthy. Able to go, but it was hard. And so how we deal with a lot of things is with humor. And so I posted on Facebook, Josh's dad has passed away, and if you want to send him some funny memes right now, or some funny jokes, or some funny clips, that would cheer him up. Like, we know Josh pretty well. Josh is on board. This is what we've agreed. He said, I just want to talk about funny stuff and be distracted from what's going on because this is going to be a hard couple of days. And so I posted on Facebook that clip from Roseanne, and I said, we're dealing with this through humor as best we can. Please send Josh, if you want to send condolences, send him a joke, send him a meme. And his family was absolutely horrified. I don't know what I guess we were supposed to pray or something. I don't know. He was already gone.
Just shut down. Be sad.
So if someone's already gone, I'm not really sure what I don't know. I don't know how you get to determine that somebody's son isn't grieving properly. But anyway, that kind of, I had a point. Hey, maybe. Hi, sweetie girl. Maybe just decided the podcast is over. Didn't you? Didn't you, sweetie?
Love each other. Be nice to each other.
Love each other and be nice to each other.
Remember that the person you're talking to is another person just like you that has their own life and is just trying to live their lives and love each other.
I think if it's negative, write it down on a piece of paper and shove it up your ass. If you got something positive to say, by all means, we're happy to hear from you. But I don't know.
Be nice to each other. Love each other.
I don't know. Be nice to us.
Yeah, be nice to us.
I think we're doing a good job here. So.
And we'll bring you lots of new podcast news.
We always got stuff going on. We're always up to whatever and up to shenanigans and having fun. And we'll always have fun stories. And there's always going to be, dark little clouds and all that stuff. And we're going to get through that too. And maybe write some songs about it and write some jokes about it and have a good time because there's more stuff. There's more good stuff on the way. And we're excited about it. And
thanks for hanging in there for 20 episodes.
Yeah, thanks for sticking with us. And, tell your friends about it if you like what we're doing. And did I actually sell somebody to put their negative comments up there?
You did, yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of funny sometimes to see that stuff in my inbox, and it's like,
yeah.
All right.
Well, I'm Josh Morgan.
I'm Vickie Morgan. Are you mad at me?
We'll see you next week.